Dab Gang in the house. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Happy Thursday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where y'all are at. How y'all doing? What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all had fun at the Dab Squad came on through. Sorry, Dab Gang. Dab Game came on through. Hope y'all had fun on the stream before this one. If you're here early, you're messing up because you should be over at the Bollicle stream before this one. Always live right before we go live. How y'all doing? 404 errors killing you? Oh no. Well, we're gonna see quite a few of them today, so hold on. We got some more for you. What's going on, everybody? What's up, Memphis? How you doing? Happy Thursday, Risky. Devacle, hey, thank you for the 5 months. And oh, what a little shout out there. Thanks to Indifferent Ghost for my sub gift. Hey, there we go. Oh, it's 6 months. It shows different on the that's weird. So the activity feed shows something different than the actual. I've never seen that before. But hey, thank you for the 6 months. That's wild. What's going on, everybody? Struggle bus? I feel you. What up, Fox? Got an API hosted on Heroku and got a client side up on GitHub Pages. Let's go. Could you imagine saying that a couple months ago? Oh yeah, I got an API hosted on Heroku and got a client side up on GitHub Pages. Get out of here. Let's go. Hype train out the jump. I always appreciate y'all. Oh, we got a few in here. Aerith, hey, with the 5 months, Aerith. Thank you so much for the 5 months. Let's go, indeed. 8 bearings photo, Lego. Thank you. Mayan Havoc with this. What? 7 months. What? 7 months of Jeff Bezos's bucks. That's wild. I'll probably pull an all-nighter to catch up. Telefang, hey, sleep's important, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. We built an API from scratch on your stream. Ooh, all right, Dab Gang, getting in here. I see y'all. Did a little bit with MongoDB Atlas at the end. That's awesome. Mine, it has been a sec. How you been? Glad to see you're here. Boom. All right, folks. Tonight, whew, I'm so pumped. This is what I've been waiting for months, for weeks to get to here, where we can start building real stuff. On Tuesday, we built a real API. You could have taken that code and built whatever you want. Tonight, we're adding even more functionality on top of that. We're gonna not only be able to get, but we're gonna be able to create as well. We're gonna be able to delete as well. And so I'm really excited to get into it. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of things we got to go over. The nuns will be in full effect tonight because I got a lot of drawing to do. But we're going to have fun. We're going to take our time. We're going to learn how all the pieces come together. We're going to look at all the pieces together. We're going to delete it all and start from scratch and build it back up. So lots of fun stuff to get into. Lewis, still catching up from the JS video before getting through the API stuff? Well, hey, glad you're catching up. Are there any files for this class? No. I will share a GitHub repo a little ways into class, and I'll explain why when we get there. A lot of the code now, since it's going to be so much more than just a few files, we're going to be pulling down from GitHub and doing our npm install so we get all of our node modules. But kind of like going forward, you'll probably just get like links to repos on GitHub because otherwise they'll get so big, right? They'll get so big. So we'll see in a second why I held off on doing it for a little bit. But hey, I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the love. Kayla, so excited for this class. I'm excited too. Glad you're all here. Nice, helps us with the terminal commands. There you go. A deal with the hydration already. Let's go. Thank you. I don't know how to say this. Dedicus. I'm going to say Dedicus. Thank you for the 3 months. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Alrighty. We go on Remo tonight. I don't think we'll be on Remo tonight. We'll definitely be on Remo tomorrow. We'll see how far we get tonight. Tonight I'm gonna ask that you ask lots of questions. I want us to kind of take our time through this. There's not too many slides. It's more talking about concepts and talking through code. And so I'm hoping that y'all come ready to ask some good questions. I'm gonna be drawing a lot. We got a lot of stuff to get into. If you need the slides for today while we're mentioning it, ! slides always get you access to the slides. Keep having problems with Remo refusing to work? You can try using your phone too. And the trick is to just skip the check. If you just skip the check, you can get in there a little bit faster. All right, folks. Normally we wait a little bit longer to get going, to give folks a few seconds to get in here, but we got so much stuff to get into tonight that we got to get to the code quicker these days. So I'm glad you're all here. I'm excited to be at the back end, building real stuff, real things that are going to go into your portfolio. That's what we're working on tonight. So prepare thyself, prepare thy resume, prepare thy portfolio. It's about to get a little thicker. Let's go. Bye. Thank you for the 100 bits. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. All right, I'm going to go to Little Leon, and we're just going to jump right into it. All right. Is there some additional steps besides linking GitHub to Code Wars to get those green squares? What most people are doing is they are saving their Code Wars answers to like a file on their computer and then pushing those files every day. And that's how you can get the green squares. Just kind of linking them up together isn't gonna give you the squares. It doesn't like push for you. So you need to do something where you're pushing code every day. Whew, with the hype train. Thank you so much for the hype train. I appreciate all the love. Thank you for all being here. All right. I'm gonna chill the OG music here. And we're gonna jump into it, folks. Lots of stuff to get to tonight. So tonight, talking about some 100 dev stuff. We are reviewing CRUD. We're talking about Express again. We're adding posts and deletes on top. And then we're gonna build an app together. And then your homework is to build an app. That's what it is. Your homework this weekend is to build an app that does get, post, and delete. And on Sunday, we will go through and do it all over from scratch again. So if you're on the struggle bus, as I see some folks are with the backend, that's okay. We're going to take our time on Sunday to go through it together. And then we're going to do a raid to end all raids. All right. And so if you're feeling like you're a little behind, it's all right. We got tonight to get through it, to understand some more of it. And then Sunday, we got y'all. All right. Let's get into these slides here. Exclamation point slides if you need them. If you're not part of the Discord community where you can get help on all this stuff, exclamation point Discord and chat will get you to our Discord community. That will make sure you're able to get on in and get the help that you need, especially as we start going through all this new stuff. What up, everybody? Hey, let's go, KCOS. Let's go. Alyssa, thank you for the links. I appreciate you. All right. We had some questions going. I'll keep a little slide here for some questions always. If you got a quick question or two, go ahead and throw them in chat. I'll answer some questions real quick. And like I said, I want to get right into the meat and potatoes today. What do we got? Busted a few fingers on my right hand. What? That's wild. I hope you're okay. Okay, Mary, I hope you're okay. How am I doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. We're building apps. This is it. This is prime time, folks. This is where it's real. This is where it gets exciting. And so I'm excited. This is my favorite part. Like of teaching, this is my favorite part. The moment when I can see somebody that just a few weeks ago couldn't create something and now can think of an idea and create it and bring it to life. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. And so to see some of y'all hustling on those APIs over yesterday and after class on Tuesday, that was wild. And I'm so excited to see the stuff you're able to do this weekend. I know it's hard. I know you got a lot to learn. You're pushing, but this is where it's real. Like, this is it. So it doesn't get better. As an instructor, it does not get better. What's the vegan equivalent of meat and potatoes? I'm not sure. Mine's just pasta. I'd eat a lot of pasta. We did have a question of the day. Beans and potatoes. There you go. I like that. I like beans and potatoes. I think that's a good one. We did have a question of the day. I forgot to ask this one last class. I'm going to ask it now. I want everyone in chat to answer. These are very important. Questions of the day are one of the most sacred traditions we have here on this chat. So, in chat, would you rather have the ability to see through walls or be able to do any math equation in your head? See through walls or be able to do any math equation in your head. I want to see math or walls in chat, please. Math is definitely swinging hard on this one. A few walls here and there. Hodor. All right, it's mostly math. We got a few walls in here. I think either way, you're getting scooped up by the government, right? Like if you can see through walls, you're getting got. If you can do any math equation in your head, you're getting got. So I think if you're graced with either of these, keep it on the low. don't let anybody know, or else you're gonna get got. I think I'm gonna go with math. I think being able to do any math equation would be pretty dope. Also, I think like the technology is gonna get there soon, right? Like I think maybe like a fly that can go around walls or something like that. I don't know. I think seeing through walls, we might get there sooner than we think. I was get it. All right. Yeah, there are like those millennium questions, right? Like the millennium questions are like if you can solve them, you get like $1 million cash or whatever it is. I think that'd be cool. You just like quickly do all those, like solve all the biggest problems in math and then move on. Just retire. All right. Let's keep going. Thank you for answering the question. I know they're always silly, but I really do like to see your responses to them. It's funny seeing what people choose over time. All right. Tomorrow we have another interview prep class. So every Friday we're doing interview prep on Remo. So please join us on Remo. I'm not going to do any, like you'll notice, like I don't ever like announce those on Twitter or anything like that. And I don't even think I'm going to put them in the newsletter anymore. I think I'm just going to put the links on Discord just because I want that to be us. Like I don't want like new folks coming in and like not understanding what we're doing or like trying to jump in. It's just for us. And so I think we bring people up, and so that should be a little bit more intimate. And so the Remos, I'm going to stop on Fridays. Like I'm not going to publicly share that. So I'm going to put the links on Discord always. The classroom link will be the same. The Remo classroom is open 24/7. So if you ever want to sit down at a table with a bunch of folks, you can use Remo if you want. I know Discord can sometimes get a little hectic, and so that classroom is always open. So class tomorrow on Remo, it's only just an hour. We just get some practice in. We learn a few concepts, and then we get some practice in. Cool. So that's tomorrow. We have our office hours on Sunday, and on Sunday we're doing a full review of all this Express stuff. We're going to start from scratch, build up a simple app together. And so if you struggled on Tuesday, you struggle a little bit today, definitely come on Sunday. Okay. I missed something. I want to see. What did I miss here? Hey, accordion, that's awesome. There you go. We'll see you. We'll see you on Sunday. That's awesome to hear, though. All right. Homework. You should have watched the wonderful video by Jake Archibald the wonderful video by Philip Roberts, and you should have went through this tutorial by Zell. These are all things that I asked you to get through, and so as we start progressing, the homework's really just that important. Class is going to be more and more building and less like just straight concepts, because we want to start building bigger and bigger applications. So the reading I'm giving is, it's really because I need you to get through it. Even if you just get through it, like you don't have to like for some of these is like some of these, they're hard. They're a lot. They're very comprehensive. Okay, we'll just say comprehensive, and we're gonna break them down during class. But I need it at least to like not be your, like I need the shock to happen while you're reading, right? Let the shock happen while you're reading, and then we'll come back and work through it together. You can also take your time. You can make sure you're adding stuff to your Anki, right? Make sure you're actively recalling as you go through this stuff. Make sure make sure you're like actively recalling as you're watching videos too. Don't just don't like bomb through a video, right? Like make sure you're stopping. Wait a minute, I just got through 5 minutes of this video. What did I learn? What did I just hear about, right? Don't just bomb through. Okay. All right. Once again, a lot of the stuff we're talking about today is covered in Zell's, like one of my favorite tutorials on the internet. And so Zell is amazing. You see them all over the place. They write on their own blog. They're on Code Mentor. They're on Free Code Camp. They do a lot of stuff for the community. And so I just want to say like a big thank you to Zell. Like I've thanked them publicly multiple times. Like I think like they're one of the most important folks in like getting new folks into web development. And they make most of their code MIT license. So you're going to see the beautiful thing about that is like you can do the tutorials. You can use all their code for your projects. We're going to be using a lot of the similar code for our projects today. And so I think it's worthwhile to put a shout out there. I think maybe next week we'll do a tweet and we'll tweet at them and say thank you. But yeah, so you're going to see a lot of stuff here that comes from their hard work. And so it's worthwhile to say a little thank you. Cool. Microsoft sponsored stream, baby. Let's go. It's not next Tuesday. It's next Tuesday. So like not this Tuesday coming up. I think I misspoke. It's like next Tuesday. So like not in a couple days. It's like the next one after that. So the scammed. Okay, calls. So what we're doing is Microsoft is sponsoring us, but the thing that they are sponsoring us for is to help us with authentication. So we're going to add authentication to our apps, like users can log in, right? And so Microsoft has a suite of tools that can help you identify users and have them logged in with their Microsoft accounts. And so we're going to do that not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. And they're coming with the heat, folks. We're talking thousands of dollars in Azure credit. We're talking swag pegs out the wazoo. It's going to be a lot of fun. So lots of surprises that stream. I'm really excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't miss it next Tuesday. Now it's time for the back end, folks. It's time to get into the back end. Crumb Hustler, hey, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Slay. Ooh, Bomb got one. Nicola, Purple Dev, and Jackie all got one. Hey, thank you so much. Can we get a nice little micro Leon for Crumb? They're always supporting us. I really appreciate that. Put mine in chat there too. Thank you. I appreciate that, Crumb. I really do. Shamanti with the hydration. Cheers to you for the hydration. I got some nice water today with some lovely lemon in it. Cheers to you. All right. We're using Node, of course. And Node is a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 engine. What is a JavaScript runtime, chat? What is a JavaScript runtime? What is a JavaScript runtime? Yeah, it's just the hosting environment. It's just where the heck we're running our code, folks. And what's the V8 engine? What's the JavaScript V8 engine, chat? What's the it's Hedgehog on a surfboard. What's the V8 engine? What's that? What is it? Yeah. It's the thing that originally came with the Chrome browser that compiles our JavaScript. It breaks down our JavaScript into something that the computer can understand. But it also comes with a lot of other goodies too, like memory and garbage cleaning and other fun stuff. So it's not like a straight compiler. It's an engine. It has more than just a compiler, right? And so we had it in like Chrome browsers, and now we also have the same engine when we get to Node. Cool. Kind of just talked about that. The important thing when we get to Node, we saw in the browser that we got access to all these web APIs that enable us to do a bunch of things. But when we get to Node, we have a bunch of built-in things that enable us to do all the heavy lifting again. Remember, JavaScript really can only do what its hosting environment allows. And so by running JavaScript with Node, we get access to these built-in modules. And we saw two really important modules, right? We saw HTTP, we saw FS, right? We got all of these like really important things that enabled us to read disk and listen to networks and do all this fun stuff. And we also get access to millions of other packages via something like NPM. And so the really cool thing here is that we can start building on top of these modules, these packages, and we also via Node get access to all of these C++ or C and C++ APIs. Just like we got access to web APIs in the browser, we get access to these other APIs when we run our JavaScript in Node. Cool. And so we get all the standard stuff, right? And we get some really like fast underpinnings here. We get some really fast stuff. We had libevent in the browser, we have libov here in Node, and we still get the V8 engine. So Node is like a really powerful place for our JavaScript to run. We can use this on desktops, mobile, all these really fun places. And so you get the power that we had in the browser now elsewhere, enabling us to build servers. And so when we started looking at some simple servers, right? We look at some simple servers. Oh no, I missed the hydration. Kat, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Thank you for inspiring me to drink more water. Woo. There we go. Fox, thank you for the hydration as well. Cheers to you. Thank you, Fox. Alrighty. Knox. Wait, where's the cotton candy rock star? You mean the devil's juice? The devil's elixir? I don't have any of the devil's elixirs today. I've been getting some good sleep. We get some good sleep. I don't need the devil's elixir today. Not today. What do we say to the devil's elixir? Not today. All right. Thank you, Reptar. So when we got to Node and we started building some simple apps with Node, we were using these HTTP and FS modules that enabled us to listen to network, enabled us to look at the file system. And then we took it like another step forward, and we had all of these like conditionals. We had to serve up every individual file. It kind of became a hot mess. It was working. We were building a back end. We became full stack web developers. But there had to be a way to like clean all this up. And what did we introduce that kind of like enables us to write cleaner backend code, to build out cleaner APIs? What do we got? What do we got, chat? There we go. Express yourself. We got Express. Exactly. We got Express. Cool. So the beautiful thing about Express, and if we go to their website, we see some interesting things here that we kind of did the what face before, but let's talk through it again. Express is fast. We get that. We know what fast is, right? It's not slow. It's quick. Unopinionated. Chat, what does it mean that Express is unopinionated? Doesn't judge you. Doesn't discuss politics. It got no opinions on my garbage code. Yeah. All these things are true. It kind of lets you bring whatever you want to bring to the table. Express says, like, here's some goodies. Feel free to use them. You don't have to use them all. And in fact, you can bring in other stuff if you want, right? It doesn't force you to use certain things to handle other things, right? So there are some more opinionated frameworks where if you want to do something, you have to use this module. You have to use it in this way or else it just won't work. Express is like, we got some HTTP stuff for you. You can do whatever the heck else you want, right? It doesn't make you have to do certain things. And minimalist means exactly that. Minimalist. It's just not. It's not heavy. It doesn't have a lot of stuff. It's just what you need. Okay. Then they go and say that they have a myriad of HTTP utility methods, basically just methods that help you handle those requests and those responses from the server. And it has some middleware at your disposal. What's middleware, chat? What is middleware? What is middleware? 3D Express, the Marie Kondo of web frameworks. Yeah, it's the stuff that helps us kind of handle the request and the response and like the stuff between the request and the response. That's all of our delicious middleware. Cool. So before we dive into building a full Express app tonight, we gotta blast to the past here. Wait, hold on. Blast to the but first. Oh, that's why there's another but there. But first. Get it? But first. Blast to the past. There we go. I amuse myself. If anybody knows where this is from, the first person to say where this is from, I will send you a free Learn with Leon sticker. Not this image. Get out of here. I'm about to say something. You're like, oh, I got it. Not this. What I'm about to say. I said I amuse myself, and so there's something that a character has said on a television show, that is, do you think I'm funny? Do I amuse you? Am I a clown? Now, if you know where that's from, I am very impressed. I'm gonna give folks a second here. From a TV show, not the original, from a TV show that said it. Like everyone. Oh, Cat got it. Cat got the one that was in my head. Cat, if you DM me, I'll send you a link for a mask. It was Sister. The mom from Sister says it. That's wild. Anyway, but first, let's talk about how the internet works, folks. Let's talk about how the internet works. The Google skills are paying off. Hey, pays the Google. All right, we're gonna talk about how the internet works. We're gonna get a nice client device here. And on this client side device, we're gonna have a browser. And then on this side, we're gonna have a nice server. Cool. And our server might talk to a database. Cool. Now, we have two different kinds of devices out there on this internet. We have client-side devices, which are devices that we use to consume the internet. Think your laptop, your desktop, your mobile phone, your tablet. I love the non-spam. I appreciate it. Will, thank you so much for that emote, by the way. We have client-side devices, and we have servers. And we know that our client-side devices can make requests, typically coming from the browser. We can do like curl and some stuff from the command line as well. But when we're talking about the browser, users are typically entering URLs. And when a user enters in a URL, it's going to make a request to a server. Okay? So if we just type in, say, I don't know, rap names 100 devs at herokuapp.com. If we type that in and we hit refresh, we're gonna make a type of request here. So I just made a request to an app that we're gonna build today by typing in a URL. When I hit that URL, like when I type it in and hit enter, that request goes to a server. Now, the server is able to hear that request. How? How is a server able to hear that request? What do our servers have that enable us to hear that request? One level up, a level up. Yeah, our servers are definitely listening. It has network access, exactly. It has network access, and it can listen for those HTTP requests. It's listening, and it's listening for those requests. Now, we have some code that we write that helps us understand when we hear certain types of requests, we're going to do certain things to respond. What is that code that we write that is set up to listen for the request and generate a response, and then knows what to do when it hears that request? What do we call that? Uber Kings got it, yeah. That's our API. That's our API. Our API is simply code, right? It's just code that's running on the server, and that code is set up to listen for requests, and we write code that says, all right, when you hear that request, do this. Okay? Sometimes we respond with an HTML file. Sometimes we talk to a database. Sometimes we talk to a database, we plug some stuff into a template, and then we respond with that information. All right? So the code that we write, our API, can really do anything. It's just going to listen for requests, and then it's up to us to decide what happens when we hear that request. An API stands for Application Programming Interface. In this case, we have an interface, and we have some code that runs when we hear that interface, or when that interface is used. Chat, what is the interface that we're using for this API or for this whole process? What's the interface that we're talking about here? It's the URL. So the URLs are our interfaces, right? Our code is going to be set up to hear different types of requests across different types of URLs, right? And the browser is how we're going to be implementing these requests, okay? So we have a client-side device that's making requests, And we have a server that can hear those requests. And we wrote some custom code so that when we hear a specific kind of request, we can generate a specific response. Okay? So, if we go back to the slides here, that's how the internet is set up. Zell has this very, very great line from their article on REST APIs. And they say it's a set of rules that allow programs to talk to each other. So this is an API. An API is a set of rules that allow programs to talk to each other. The developer creates the API on the server and allows the client to talk to it. All right. So if we go back to our code, our lovely image here, we write the API on the server, right? We write the code, and then we let the client talk to that code. And when that code hears certain types of requests, it knows how to respond. And that's how the internet works. This is how every single thing we've done on the internet probably has been working. It's some sort of request and some sort of response. And the code that's really good at figuring out how to respond or what to respond with, we call that our API. Now, we're really doing the same 4 things over and over again for most web applications. Alasha, hey. Thank you so much for the Prime sub. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sorry if I messed up the name there. Arlacia. I'm going to say that. There you go. Welcome. All right. We're doing the same 4 things over and over again, chat. Like over and over again. We do them so much that we've given them a nice, neat name called CRUD. Creating, reading, updating, and deleting. Now, this creating, reading, updating, and deleting actually sits on top of some pretty powerful stuff. What is the protocol? Or the thing that enables us to talk to our server and get a response? What is the protocol that this runs on, that the internet runs on? Yeah. The internet runs on Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP. Right? Now, HTTP is a set of really complex code, lots of protocols, lots of stuff that just enables the internet to work. But there are 4 really powerful things that HTTP understands out the gate. It understands 4 different types of requests that we can make. HTTP understands creating, which we would call post. So one of the methods that HTTP can use is post. Another one of the methods that HTTP understands is get. Another is put. And the last is delete. So our CRUD is really sitting on the shoulders of some giants here, right? CRUD is really just a cuter way of saying we're posting, we're getting, we're putting, we're deleting. And these are just really cute ways of saying that the HTTP understands like 4 main kinds of requests here. Does a lot of other stuff, but it handles these 4 things really, really well. So what we're eventually going to have to do is write some code that can listen for all of the posts, the get, the put, and delete requests that are coming from our client, right? So all these requests are going to be coming from our client side. All these requests are going to be coming from typically our browser. And we have all this code that is set up to hear the gets, the posts, the puts, and the deletes. What do we call the code that is set up to hear the gets, the posts, the puts, and the deletes? What do we call that, chat? Yeah, there we go. Hadouken. It's our API. That's what we're building. It's our API. It's the thing that can hear those requests, and then we start to figure out what we want to do to respond. Cool. This is their post on REST APIs. It's kind of the main type of API that we'll be building early in our program together, like early in our back end. Once again, definitely read this. Great article. All right. Talked about CRUD. Creating, reading, updating, deleting. We're really doing the same 4 things over and over and over again for all of our web applications. When we talk about creating, we're really just saying like we're making something. When we're talking about reading, we're talking about like getting something. When we're talking about updating, we're talking about like changing something, right? Some people get confused between like read and update. Read means we're just getting some stuff. Update means that we're actually like changing something. And then deleting, where we're just like removing something. Okay. There are some new pieces that we have to put together for our app tonight. For our app to work tonight, we're going to need some extra stuff. Okay. Did you all bring down my app? Or is Heroku down again? Don't be down, Heroku. Heroku was down earlier today. I think so many people went to the app that it went down. I prepared for this. I knew that somebody would crash the app, that we might get DDoS, so I have a local version of the app as well. And I made it private so you don't have access to it. So you've been foiled. If somebody tried to crash it, I got you. So I think so many people went to this that it's down now because we're getting the too many people error. All right, so here's the app we're going to build tonight. I wanted it to be fun so that like y'all could put some wild stuff on there, but I guess it went down already. All right, here's the app we're going to build tonight. And it's not running. Let me go ahead and run it. Let me run my server. I've restricted my database to just my IP address, so it won't help if you have it. Cool. All right, let's refresh. All right, here we go. Here is my app. I have some wrappers here, and I have their stage name and their birth name. And and what I want to be able to do is I can add wrappers here, but I can also delete them. Ready? Boom. Polo G is gone. If I refresh, you can see that my data is persistent. I have 21 Savage here. I have Chance the Rapper here. So let me go ahead and add back Polo G. Let me add their birth name. And I'm going to submit it. And there we go. So the cool thing here is that I can add their stage name, their birth name, and I have the ability to delete. We know that it's persistent. You saw me refresh. I'm not using local. I'm using MongoDB. If I go to my MongoDB and I refresh, you're going to see that there are 3 wrappers inside of my Mongo database. If I go back to my application and I delete it, and I go back to my Mongo Atlas and I refresh, you're going to see that there's only 2 wrappers now. Polo G is gone. So when I am deleting, I am deleting the actual document that's being stored in MongoDB. And when I am adding, let's go ahead and put in Polo G, put their birth name and submit. When I put it back, you see it's back there now. When I go back to Mongo Atlas and I refresh, you're going to see that it's back there now. So the cool idea here is that we are going to build an application, right? We're going to build an application that enables us to add wrappers and their birth names and delete them if we want to. Now, I like to use Mongo Atlas to start because you don't need to set up anything really on your computer. There's no need to like muck around with MongoDB running locally. When you're working with others, they're not going to have your local database, right? So if we want to collaborate with each other, we want to work with each other, it makes sense to use a MongoDB that's out there on the interwebs, that's on the cloud there for us, right? And so for now, we're going to do that. We're going to use MongoDB Atlas, which is a Mongo database that's being hosted for us, right? That's being hosted for us. And so that's what we're doing. My Texas Toast, hey, thank you for the 7 months. That's wild. It's so wild. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. All right. Now, Mongo is our database, right? It's just our database. It's just where we're going to store data. That's it. Shells asked, what's the difference between Heroku and MongoDB? Heroku is where we store all of our server, like everything that our server needs to run, that is all, right? Everything that our server needs to run, that is all what Heroku is handling. But MongoDB Atlas is just our database. And we're going to talk a lot more about this tonight. Don't worry that if that doesn't make sense too much. This is hilarious that this is still down. I really hope nobody's nefarious. I hope it was just like a rush of people tried to go there. All right. Cool. So we're adding MongoDB into the mix. This should not be the first time you've heard of MongoDB. You should have done the reading where they walked you through MongoDB. Right? Reptar. If you see Leprechaun, say, yeah. Big love to you, Leon. Shout outs to the OG Day 1 Leon gang. Thank you, Reptar. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. All right. So, MongoDB is really fun. MongoDB is fun because if you know how to use objects, you already know how to use MongoDB. That's it. If you know how to use objects, you already know how to use MongoDB. Now, when it comes to MongoDB and all this stuff, there's so many different ways of doing things. There's so many different ways to talk to MongoDB. Do you have it hosted? Do you have it local? A lot of stuff. Don't worry. We're going to get to all those things, but tonight is about building. We're going to do it one way that I think is the easiest to get the most folks up and running, right? The easiest for folks to get help, and we'll have weeks and weeks to add more and more nerd stuff on top, right? Somebody said, what's the difference between MongoDB and Mongoose? It's just MongoDB is the database. Mongoose is a way of talking to that database, basically, right? It's like it's a bunch of tools that are going to help us work with the MongoDB. So tonight, I'm not using Mongoose. I'm using the old school way, which is to use the MongoDB and to use Mongo client. A little bit old school, but I think it's a lot more readable for the things that we want to do tonight. Cool. So, like I said, if you know how to deal with objects, you know how to deal with MongoDB, right? And exactly, Chaos. That's why Mongo is so popular. It's just an easy extension to the things that we've already been doing in JavaScript. Now, MongoDB has two really important concepts. Our data is stored in collections, and collections are made up of documents. Okay? Our data is stored in collections, and our collections are made up of documents. So, if I wanted to store wrappers, I am probably going to have a collection called wrappers. And then inside that collection called wrappers, I'm going to have individual documents for each wrapper. And when I say individual documents, all I really mean is like individual objects. So I'm going to have one object that has stage name of 21 and birth name of that long name. I don't know what it is. Their long birth name. Then I'm going to have another document, right, behind my head. I'm going to have another document where the stage name is Polo G and their birth name is that long name. So all I'm doing is storing objects. And if the objects are the same, we put them in a collection. And so we actually can see that. The other beauty of using Mongo Atlas to start, instead of trying to run MongoDB locally, right? Instead of trying to run MongoDB locally, the beautiful thing about using Mongo Atlas is that we can see it. You can see it with your eyes. Do you see it? Do you see it? I see it. I see it. So here we have a collection of wrappers, right? And then each wrapper, all right? We have a collection of wrappers, and each wrapper is just one document. So each of these white squares is a document. And what does it look like inside those documents? Chat. What does it look like inside those documents? What does that look like? What syntax does that look like? What does it look like inside of those documents? Looks like an object, folks. It looks like an object. It's because that's what it is. MongoDB is a really fancy way of storing objects. That's all it is. We're just storing, for now, that's how I want you to think about it. For now, that's all I want you to think about. MongoDB is just a place where we're going to store our objects. And we might have a bunch of different kinds of objects. All right? We might have a bunch of different kinds of objects. And if we have different kinds, we're going to have different collections. But right now, we're only doing one thing. Right, chat? Right now, we're only doing one thing. We're only storing wrappers. And so right now, since I'm only storing wrappers, how many collections do I need? If I'm only storing wrappers, how many collections do I need? One. I'm only storing wrappers, so I just need one collection. And right now, I'm going to give this a refresh just so we know we're good. Right now, just by looking at my code here, well, my DOM here, how many documents do I have in my wrappers collection? If you had to guess, if you had to take an educated guess here, how many documents do you think were in my wrappers collection? Yeah, it's 3, exactly. So there were 3 wrappers in my collection here. Dope. Let's try restarting the wrap name server. All right. Hold on. I have my server over here and logs on the left. Let's go back and see if we can get this up. Oh, I think I actually changed something. I think it's actually my fault. I think I actually brought it down. No worries. I'll fix that during one of our breaks. I thought it was y'all. It was me. I thought it was y'all. It was me. I broke it. I don't know how I broke it. I didn't touch it between now and when class started. But I can see that there's a weird path here. All right. No worries. I got it. I see the error of my ways. The accusations. I'm sorry. You got. I got. I did. I thought I came to get, but I got myself. All right. Cool. So we can see that there are 3 documents probably. And when we look at our Mongo Atlas, we see, well, 3 documents in there. Cool. That's it. That's MongoDB, folks. We're eventually just going to take objects and plop them into collections, and that's it. That's it. Bold of you to think I even knew where to start bringing down a server. I had just tested it. All right. So we have our MongoDB. That's the new piece we're adding here. It's just objects. We're just putting objects in the collections, and it's just data. It's just going to be text for now. That's it. That's all we're doing. And we put our data into a database because it's easy to get data in and out, and we can store stuff there persistently. Like it can stay there. Okay. Is there a benefit to using Mongo over Firebase? They're different tools. You use the tools that are effective for you. All right. The next thing we're going to add is EJS. It's in the game. EJS stands for Embedded JavaScript Template or Embedded JavaScript. And all it is it looks a heck of a lot like HTML because it is mainly HTML that you can put JavaScript into. Let me say that again. It's just HTML that we can put JavaScript into. Now, now this seems weird. It seems like we might run into some separation concerns here, but we really have to start thinking about presentation logic versus business logic. And it doesn't violate separation of concerns because our EJS spits out what? What do you think our EJS spits out? What do you think our EJS spits out? Yeah, it spits out HTML. So you could think of EJS as a cross hot fire. You could think of EJS as a template for HTML. We're gonna plug a bunch of stuff in, and it's gonna vomit out HTML. All right. We can have like a template that we plug stuff into, and the end result is HTML. Now this is really important. This is really important because this app, once it goes live, once I fix it and it goes live, do I know how many wrappers you eventually are all going to add? Do I know how many wrappers there will eventually be? So is there any way that I could hard code every LI that I needed? No, there's just no way for me to know how many wrappers y'all. I have like a piece of hair in my eye or something. It's really bothering me. Oh, there it is. Be gone, hair. Yeah, I have no idea how many wrappers there's going to be. So I can't hard code it. I need some way of dynamically generating my HTML. And that's a big word. All I mean is I just need a way of like creating my HTML based on like how many wrappers I have, right? And so if we look at this code, that's what this is doing. Look, we have an H1 like normal. We have a UL like normal. But then look inside this UL. What am I doing? Chat, what am I doing inside of this UL? It's a for loop. And what is my for loop building? Yeah. It's creating LIs. This for loop is creating LIs. Look, look, look. Here's an LI. So if this loop was to run, I don't know, say 3 times, we would have 3 LIs that were created. They would almost all be the same, right? They'd almost all be the same. But this is 3 LIs, and I can plug what I want into these LIs. So what's actually happening when someone makes a request to my server, when they go here and they click refresh, I've done a request. There's a request that has been made. And it was a GET request. Right? They come to my local host here, or well, eventually it'll be hosted. They come to this page. They have made a GET request. Right? They have made a GET request. Now, knowing what we know, where are all the wrappers that they care about stored right now? When they come to my site and they make that GET request, where are all my wrappers stored? They're stored in MongoDB. So my API has to be able to hear that GET request. And when it hears that GET request, it has to go and talk to Mongo. And when it goes to MongoDB, it grabs all of these objects. It grabs all of these objects. And then the really cool thing is I can pass all of these objects into my EJS. Chat. What is a data structure that we have learned that enables us to hold a bunch of objects? Memphis, thank you for the hydration. I think that's Lewis. Thank you for the hydration. More, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. So, we do know that's an array. Cool, it's an array. So when all of these objects come back from my database, what do you think they're going to be stored in? When I get all these objects back from my database, what are they going to be stored in? Yeah, we're going to put them in an array, baby. We're going to put each one of those objects in an array. And then, if you know that all those objects are in an array, this code should make a little bit more sense. What's this code doing? Let's say that info is our array of objects. And we have 3 of them. It's just looping through the array. And every single time it loops through the array, it's building an LI. And that LI is going to grab 21 Savage and their birth name. Then the next time it runs, it's going to grab Chance the Rapper and their birth name. And the last time it runs on this last object, it pulls out Polo G and their birth name. So the idea here is we can store data in MongoDB. All right, we can store data in MongoDB. And we can use EJS as kind of like a wild Mad Libs or a really cool template. We can get all this data from our database and start plugging our data into a template. Right? And so that's what actually happened here. When I refresh, I made a GET request. My API was set up to hear it. I had an app.get. And it heard the request on that root route. Once it heard the get, it went to my database and found all of those objects inside of my wrapper collection. Once I had all of those objects, it passed them to EJS. And EJS was able to create an LI for every single one of those wrappers. Then EJS gave me some HTML. Like when it was done doing its thing, it spit out HTML. And then I took this HTML and I responded with it. And that's how you're able to see all 3 of my wrappers. Do we make separate file for the EJS template? Yes. We're going to have everything that we see will be an EJS template that we can pass stuff into. We can do stuff dynamically. It's going to be really powerful for us to be able to create many different pages. Don't worry about the syntax yet. We're going to get into the syntax. We're spending the first hour or so, just like when we come back from break, just trying to understand what's happening. We'll worry about syntax. We'll worry about all the characters and all that stuff later. First, we need to understand what is actually happening in a full stack web application. It makes no sense for us to jump into the code if we don't actually understand what we're doing. Will we use React later to replace EJS? Yes. React will replace our EJS in the future. EJS is just way easier to read than anything else because it's just HTML with JavaScript thrown in. That's it. So if you can read HTML, you can read JavaScript, you can pretty much understand what's happening in the code. I do use Pug myself. Jade, if you're an OG, you know what it used to be. Cool. Pug's just a different templating language. So instead of using EJS, you can use other templates or other different languages that help you do templates. But we're going to use EJS today. So that's what we do. We made a GET request. We went to our database. We got all the wrappers. We threw them into an EJS file. The EJS file said, oh, I can build an LI for each of these wrappers. Great. And then when it was done, it spit out HTML. We responded with that HTML. How do you use CSS to style your page? You just link to it. It's just like regular HTML. We're going to see that in a bit. Cool. Alrighty, folks. We're at the top of the hour. We went a little bit over. We have to take our break. Remember, we're in this for the rest of our lives. I know this is fun stuff. I know we can get into it and nerd out for a while. But let's make sure we're healthy. Let's take our break. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock here, folks. 5 minutes on the clock. If you're able to, please get up, hydrate. If you're able to, take care of yourself. All right, 5 minutes on the clock. I'm going to put some lovely break music on. And I'm going to run some ads to force you to take a break. And to make sure that new folks that join us don't have to sit through them. They can jump right into lecture. So since we're taking a break anyway, we're going to run them. All right, folks. See you in 5. Alrighty, folks. I don't have anything planned for April 20th. Yet that I know of, Alyssa. A lot of questions being asked about why server-side rendering, why client-side rendering. I don't have answers totally. We'll get there. We'll get there. For now, it's we're doing all of our stuff server-side because it's easier. It's just easier to understand what's happening. Oh, okay, Alyssa. Sorry. Yeah, no worries. I'll make sure we don't do anything special on that day then. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Fox, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Alyssa. What should I do if my work experience is not related to tech? Watch our crafting our story class, because any experience can be crafted to bolster when you apply for a job in tech. So it's about finding a good story that shows like how you went from where you are to where you are now. Nah, I don't. I find it messes with my bipolar disorder. There's some research about CBD like not being good either, and so I don't. It's one of the things I can't really do because I know that it messes me up. Hey, Zukito, welcome back. My first shot went really well, Bull. It went really well. Yeah, it went really well. It was the best needle I've ever gotten in my life. I didn't feel a damn thing. I was like, what? Like, you did it? What's going on here? Which I thought was, and a lot of people have told me it was the same thing. Like, they didn't feel the needle going in. Like a day later, it felt like somebody punched me in the arm, but that was about it. Yeah. Just some new viewer. Yep, I do. Nice, Blah. That's awesome. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Reptar, I'll have to, if you have something like that, can you share stuff about that on Discord? I think that'd be great for us to be able to set everyone to set theirs. You got your second dose on Saturday? That's awesome. That's cool, Scott. I didn't know that. What are my thoughts on Bootstrap? It's a tool. If you feel like it helps you, then go ahead and use it. I don't really use it too much anymore. Gotta get the hair right, jeez. Where can I find the Anki GitHub repo? I don't have one yet. I like to encourage people to build their own Anki decks. I do know we have folks that share them on Discord, so I'm sure folks would happily share theirs with you, but I'm an advocate of building your own. There are. Yeah, there are other things besides Bootstrap that you could use. It's a tool. If you feel like the tool is going to help you, use it. All right, folks, come on back from break. Come on back. Sharon, hey, thank you for the 3 months. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Anki is a spaced repetition tool that we use here. It helps us remember stuff for longer. You can do !learn and !study tips for all the wonderful study tips that you need to get through learning how to code. Thank you, Alyssa, for posting the links. Daddy Anki, A1 since day one. Thank you, Leon, for continuing to bless us with knowledge, darts each and every week. You're a national treasure and should be protected at all costs. P.S. Eli Porter versus Envy is a great freestyle of all time. There you go. Thank you so much for the 7 months. That's wild. And thank you for always being here. Digital Fendi with the 100 bits. Thank you so much. All right, folks, come on back. Let's get into this. Let me chill the music here. All right. Cool. So we're talking a little bit about the EJSs. We can plug stuff into them, which is really neat. Helps us build dynamic aspects of our sites. And here's what our code is going to wind up being. This is what we're going to wind up with in the long run. So there's a lot going on here, but let's talk through it. Okay. We are going to have a client-side device. In this case, I am running my client-side stuff here on my laptop. So we're going to pretend that our client-side device is a laptop. On the laptop, we have a browser, and that browser enables us to enter a URL. When we hit enter, we have made what type of request? Like if we just go ahead and type in, like I got to fix this, but if we just were to type in rap names 100 devs, right? And that's the name of that was the URL of our application. We were to type that in, we were to hit enter, what type of request would we have made? Nice. We will made a GET. So our request goes from our client-side device to our server, and our server has some code running on it, and that code can hear the request, right? It hears that it is a GET request, and so the GET request can then go and do stuff. The code that can hear our request and help us generate a response, we call all that code our what? The code that's running on our server that can hear the requests and generate the responses, we call that code our what? Our API. So in this case, our GET request is going to be coded, right? It's going to be coded to then go and talk to our Mongo database. And where is our Mongo database hosted right now? Where is my Mongo database hosted right now? Yeah, it's on Mongo Atlas, right? It's on one of Mongo Atlas's servers, right? It's out there in the cloud, but it's Mongo Atlas. Great. So the user hit enter on the URL. That made a GET request to my server. My server had some API code, my CRUD API, that heard the GET, and it made a request to the Mongo database. Once it got the data from Mongo, it handed it off to our EJS. And our EJS took in all that info, and spit out what? What did the EJS vomit out for us? What did it vomit out for us? What did the EJS vomit out for us? HTML. Great. So we had some HTML. And then once we had the HTML, what did our API decide to do with that HTML? Once we had the HTML, what did our API decide to do with that HTML? What did it decide to do? Yeah, it sent it back to the browser, sent it back to the client. It said, all right, we got it. Boom. Here you go. And that's how we're able to see what we saw in the browser. Right? That's how we're able to see what we saw in the browser. We hit enter on a URL that made a GET request. Right? It made a GET request. We had some code running on our server that said, all right, when we hear a GET request on the root, like the main page, go talk to Mongo database, grab all the wrappers from your collection, pass all those wrappers into the EJS. The EJS is going to vomit out some HTML, and then we're going to take that HTML and send it back to the browser. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what we're doing when we make a GET request? Does that make sense? It's a lot of stuff that's happening, right? And we're going to write our API to handle all those things. So don't worry about that yet. Don't worry about the code. Like if you want to see the code, here's the code, right? Here's the GET request. Don't worry about the code for right now. Don't worry about it. Just I'm just going to show it to you. It heard the request, right? Once it heard the request, it's just like a fancy click event, folks. It's like a fancy click event. It hears the request and it runs this function, right? We learned all about callbacks. We learned all about promises. We were leading up to this, right? It hears the GET request and it runs this function. This function talks to our database. It finds the collection wrappers. It finds all of the wrappers. And once it finds all the wrappers, it turns them into an array. Great. So now we have an array of wrappers that came from our database. We're going to pass that array into our EJS. And the EJS is going to render out HTML. And once we have that rendering of HTML, we're going to respond with it. So the code can be a little scary. Don't worry about understanding the code right now. Just because we're talking about it, I wanted to show it. Right? It heard the GET request. It talked to the database, found all the wrappers, turned them into an array. We pass that array into our EJS. We render out some HTML from the EJS, and we respond with it. That's it. Now you can handle GET requests. Oh no, it's all falling apart today. My trackpad died. I gotta plug in my trackpad. All right. So we talked about GET requests. I'm gonna jump to the GET here because we've talked about it. So we've made some GET requests. We made a GET request, and we really only have one request that we're gonna make. This entire application only makes one GET request. What's the only GET request that my application makes? What's the only way that I can make a GET request here on this application? The only way I can make a GET request here is when I load the page. I hit enter, boom. I have made my GET request. That's it. That's the only GET request that I have here for this entire application. That's it. So my app, my CRUD API, only needs one app.get. That's it. There's only one get that I'm going to make. So it only needs one app.get. If I had other pages or other things I was trying to do, maybe I would have more. Not for this application. Only one GET request. So I'm only going to see one app.get, and my route, right? My route is just that / because it's the root. It's the main page. To represent the root or the main page, we use the / That's it. So when I hit enter or I hit refresh, I am making a GET request. Let's talk about what happens when we make that GET request. All right, let's talk about what happens when we make that GET request. We have our browser, and our browser makes a request to our server. Our server has some code running on it. It's going to have an app dot get. And it's going to know what get we're talking about because we're at that / route. Okay? Once it hears that get, we're going to fire a function. So every single thing that's inside those curly braces is the function that we're going to run. Okay? So we've heard the get. What's the first thing we need to do, chat? Our API has heard the get request. We know that we're trying to show the content of our website in the browser. What's the first thing we have to do? Our code just heard the get. What's the first thing we have to do? Yeah. We have to go talk to our database. So we're going to say, go to the database. The cool thing is I've stored the connection to my database in that variable. So wherever you see DB, that's just the database I told it to connect to. So I did that somewhere else, right? But DB is just the database I told it to connect to. I could have connected it to a bazillion different databases, but I connected it to one and I stored it in DB. Great. So I'm going to go talk to the database that I want to talk to, the one that I have on Mongo Atlas, right? It's the name I made up. It's just the variable I made up. DB, I made it up, and I'm storing my database in it. Cool. Now, I got to the database. Where do I need to look for all of my wrappers? Chat. Yeah, I need to go to a collection. So I'm literally going to say dot collection. I'm going to say dot collection. And what collection am I looking in? Am I looking in the SpongeBob collection? I got one of those somewhere. Nah, I'm looking in the wrappers collection. Cool. So I went to the database. I found the wrappers collection. What do I want out of the wrappers collection? What do I want out of the wrappers collection? I want all the objects. So the really cool thing about MongoDB and why I love to use it with beginners is because if you understand objects, you can use it. Not only are we putting objects into a database, but Mongo comes with all of these methods that make what we want to do really easy. If you start with SQL or Postgres or any of these other databases, you have to learn a whole other querying language to get the data you want out of the database. With Mongo, all I have to do is say find. That's it. Go find them. Find them all. Right? Go find them all. And once we find them, what do we want to do with it? We now have all these objects. I can't hold all these objects. What am I going to do to them? I'm going to put them in an array. Exactly. To array. Cool. Put them in an array. Great. So now I have gone to my database. I found all my wrappers. I put them all into an array. The last thing I want to do is pass off that array to our EJS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, response dot render. And I'm going to tell it to use my index.ejs. My index.ejs is just the template I have set up. The template where I'm going to pass my array into. Okay. And once I've passed my stuff into that template, it renders out some HTML and I respond with that HTML. So what winds up happening is this GET request ends by sending the HTML back to the browser. So that's what's happening here. I made a GET request. I had some code set up on my server that could handle that GET request. My code was set up to go talk to my database, find all my wrappers, put them in an array, pass that array off to my EJS. My EJS vomits out HTML, and then it responds with that HTML. You didn't have to learn a querying language. All you need to know is how objects work. Boom. Flopsy with the hydration. Cheers to you. Cool. If we take a quick peek at the EJS, I'm going to delete this. If we take a quick peek at the EJS, you can see that all of the that array is stored in info. So info.length would be 3. So we know that this for loop is running 3 times, which means that we're going to have 3 LIs. And each of those objects is going to have a stage name and a birth name that we can pull out. If we look at Mongo Atlas, look, stage name, birth name on this first object, stage name, birth name on this second object, stage name, birth name on that third object. So all I'm doing is taking those objects, putting them into EJS, looping through them, pulling out the pieces that I want. That's it. Exotic male escort, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Is info.length coming from Mongo? No. That's JavaScript. It's just JavaScript. The info is the variable holding our array, though. It's the variable that we've passed our array into that variable. So whenever I see info, it's my array. And so that's why I'm doing info I, because it's going to be 0 the first time, it's going to be 1 the second time, and 2 the third time. And that enables me to grab the specific object out. If we look at the actual code for a second, you can see that when I went to render my EJS, I passed my data in as info. So all my data has the name info. Info is completely made up. I could have called that Pokemon cards and it would have worked. I could have called it rainbow and it would have worked. I just like the word info because it made sense to me. So when it comes time to render my EJS, I'm passing all the data I got back, my array, all the data from that array, I'm passing in as info. So wherever I see info in my EJS, that's the array. It's just a variable. Yeah. Cool. Like I said, though, don't get hung up on the syntax right now. The syntax doesn't matter right now. Understanding what the app is trying to do, that's way more important. Okay, don't worry about the syntax now. We'll have the whole last hour will be syntax. Right now, we're just worried about understanding what's happening. All right. Now, keep trying to use my trackpad and I can't. All right. So we handled a get. But what about a post? What about a post? Let's go back to our page here. What's a wrapper name? We need a wrapper. What's RZA's real name? The RZA. The Jizza. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, baby. All right. Oh. Wait, hold on. Why does it not show it easily here? Oh, there we go. Born. There we go. That's what I want. Boom. Sorry, that must be really small for y'all. All right, there we go. So I'm going to create another one. Boom. And we're going to put in their birth name and submit. Cool. Worked. What the heck did I just do, chat? Beanie Siegel is my favorite. How'd you know? Maybe because I'm from Philly. That's probably an easy one. What did I do? How? All right, so y'all got it right. Y'all know I made a post. But how did I make a post? How did I make a post request? Ooh. Totes got it. There was a form. My form submitted. And when my form submitted, it made a post request. Cool. So I submitted my form, and my form made a post request. Cool. Let's talk about it. So, submitted a form. My API. Is my API set up to handle a post? Yep. Now, I have some code that I want it to run. When I make a post, what do I want to have happen? What are some steps that I want to have happen when my form submits? What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Yeah. I want to put a new document in my database. What up, Indifferent? I want to put a new document in my database. And I want it to go in what collection, chat? Where do I want this new document to go? Yeah, I want it to go in my wrappers collection. What? Indifferent, you got a new job? That's awesome. Congrats. That's wild. Happy to hear that. Congrats. Let's go. Can I count it? Can that be 3 out of 100? You have been hanging out an awful lot. Congrats. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. All right. So, we submitted a form. Our API heard the form submit, and we said we want to put a new document into our database. And if we can go look at our database. Let's go look at Mongo. I'm going to go back down the peg here. Let's go to Mongo. Actually, let me go way back to normal. Let's go back to Mongo. Let me click refresh here. And look, we have a new document, the RZA. And we can see their birth name. So we created a new document. Cool. Does our post need to do anything else? Does our post need to do anything else, chat? Nah. Doesn't need to do anything else. Because what can I do? Once my post is done, what could I just do? Once my post's done, what could I do? I could just refresh my page. And if I refresh my page, what type of request is that? It's another GET. And is our API set up to handle the GET? Did we already code the GET? Yeah. Is it hard code? Is it dynamic? We'll be able to show Riza the new wrapper. Yeah, because we're using EJS. We didn't hard code anything. Since it's EJS, there's one more object in our array, which means that there's one more LI that gets added to our EJS. Our EJS spits out the HTML, and we see that HTML in the browser. So our post really just has to add a document to the database. And once it's done doing that, we can just refresh the freaking page. Now, this isn't some sleek single page application. We're trying to learn the fundamentals here. There are things that we might do differently down the line, but for now, heck, we're building apps, baby. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's look at the code. Super simple. Super simple. If we look at my EJS, here is my form. Here is my form. I told the form to use post. You can actually make forms do other stuff, but I told it to use post. All right, I told it to use post. And when I submitted that form, the cool thing about it is I had some middleware that was able to look at the request and give me the stuff that I wanted out of the stuff I sent along with the form. So here's my form. You can see that it has an action called add wrapper, and it has a method of post. So I know it's going to be a post request, and how I can distinguish different posts or different forms is that the actions will be different. So now if I look at my server file, I have a post. I have the add wrapper. Looks good. So it's able to hear that request. And when it hears that request, it fires this function. Beautiful. Fires the function. And once again, we talk to our database. We find our wrappers collection. And the beauty of MongoDB again. Do we have to learn some querying language? No. We just learn a new method. And this method says insert one. Chat, what is it inserting? What is it inserting? A new document. It's inserting a new document. So when I say insert one, I am inserting a new document. Now, here's something really cool. All this Express goodness, a lot of stuff we get when we use Express, we get these request and response objects. And remember, whenever you're making a request, you're sending a lot of information, right? But what we can do is we can use the body of our request. And since we have some middleware that we'll talk about later, since we have some middleware set up that we talk about later, what we can do to get all the information out of the form, so we can grab all the information that's in this form, all we have to do is request.body. That's all we got to do. Imran, hey, what's going on? Thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. All I got to say is request.body, and I'm going to grab all the information that's in that form. And it's going to be what type of data structure? What is it going to be? What type of data is it going to be? What type of data structure is it going to be? It's going to be an object. So I am literally just plopping an object into my Mongo database. And that object is going to have what properties? Can you see it? Can you squint? What properties is that document in our Mongo database going to have? Stage name and birth name. Where the heck did stage name and birth name come from? Where did stage name and birth name come from? Ooh, Electro Jesus out the jump. Yeah, if we go back and we look at this form. Look. There's a name of stage name and a name of birth name. So that object that the request body has a stage name property, and whatever was in this input, that's what stage name is going to be. And whatever was in this input is what birth name is going to be. So we're literally creating a document that has stage name and birth name, and that came from the name properties on our form. So if I added more inputs and more names, right? We could do it. We would have more stuff going into the document. The other really cool thing that we could do is, let's say we wanted to hard code something. We could come here and create our object. We could create our object, and we could say something like, we could say our stage name, right? And then do request.body.stage name. So we can hard code it if we want. And then the beautiful thing is we could hard code something like, who the best, and say Leon. So like I could hard code what's going into the document inside of our Mongo database. But we're going to save that for another day. For right now, I'm just taking whatever's in the form and I'm plopping that in as a document. All right? Just dropping that in as a document into my Mongo database. So we heard the post request. We went to our database. We found the wrappers collection. And we said, insert one document into that wrappers collection. And then when it was done, when we have added our new wrapper to our Mongo database, what did we do, chat? What did we do? Once we were done adding that document to our collection, what did we do? Techno Ghost, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. We said, hey, the response I'm sending you, just go here. It's just telling us to go back to the main page. And since it told us to go back to the main page, that's the exact same thing as just clicking refresh. It's the same thing as clicking refresh. And as soon as the page refreshed, what type of request did we make? As soon as we refresh, what type of request did we make? We made a get. And our get was set up, right? Our get, we already went through. Our get is set up. Our get is set up to go ahead and say, all right, let's go to our database. Let's find the wrappers collection. Find all of the documents. How many documents are there now, chat? There's 4 documents now, which means that our EJS, how many times is this for loop going to loop when we get there? How many times is this for loop going to loop? 4 times. It's going to loop 4 times. Cool. All right. So we went to our database. We found the wrappers collection. We found all 4 documents. We're like, it's too many documents to hold. So we put them into an array. Great. This is an asynchronous task. What is something that we've learned about in the past few classes that can do stuff for us asynchronously? What was JavaScript set up to use to handle asynchronous stuff? Promises. What does this look like, folks? What is this? What is it? It's the same thing. It's just promises. It's the same thing, right? So once we go to the database, once we've gone to the wrappers collection, once we find all the documents in that collection, and once we've put them into an array, and this resolves, what happens next? What happens next? What automatically fires? The then. The then fires. Exactly, the then fires. And remember, then, the value that gets passed into then was the object we got back from the promise. So we know that we got some data back from this promise. We got some data back, right? We got some data back. It's an array now because we told it to be in an array. And so data is holding our what? What is data holding right now, chat? What is data holding? Yeah, data's holding in our array. And so the last thing we have to do is set up our response. We say, hey, render some EJS. We say render some EJS. And we're passing in data, and data is our array. So we're passing our array into our EJS file. Now, what is the variable name for our array? This is weird, right? What's going to represent our array inside of the EJS? What's going to represent our array inside of the EJS? Exactly, it's info. We just gave it the name info right here. We just gave it the name info right here. So inside of our EJS, we're looking for info. We know that info is our array. So let's go ahead and look at our array here, our EJS here. It looks just like regular HTML that we've plugged some fancy JavaScript into, basically. Cool. Info is an array with how many objects inside of it, chat? Info is an array with how many objects inside of it? Exactly. There's 4. There's 4 objects inside. Beautiful. So this for loop is going to run how many times? Keep it going. There we go. 4 times. Each time it runs, it's going to move through our array. You know that there's an array here that has objects in it. Right? So the very first time this runs, I is going to be 0. So we're going to grab the first object, grab the stage name, grab the birth name, and create an li for that first wrapper. Then we're going to do it again for the second wrapper, pulling out the stage name and the birth name. The third one, stage name, birth name. Fourth one, stage name, birth name. But each time, it's a new li because the li is inside of the for loop. So we're going to wind up creating 4 li's. And when we're done, where am I at? Sorry. Not having my my trackpad's weird. When we're done, the response is the render. So our EJS just vomited out HTML, and we respond with it. Boom. How are we feeling? Is this making sense at all? Is this making sense? How are we feeling? Is it dance time? And that's why my trackpad doesn't work. Exactly. A little. All right. Cool. It's just a lot of steps. It's really fancy Legos. It's really fancy Legos. Feel overwhelmed? That's all right. We're going to keep working through it. You got exactly. Folks are saying the reading prepared them. You can't come to class not doing the reading anymore, folks. There's too many steps, too many little things. You got to do the reading. All right. Let's go ahead and take a break. Yeah, exactly. Don't concentrate on the details right now. You got to think about the story. I think about the story we're building here. All right. We're at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and take our break. When we come back from break, we're going to talk about the delete. All right. Let's go ahead, take a break. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock here, folks. 5 minutes on the clock. Alrighty. Boom. 5 minutes on the clock. I'm going to play some lovely break music. And we're going to run some ads so that new folks don't have to worry about ads when they join us. If you're able to, get up, hydrate, do what you got to do. Boom. How do you draw on the screen? Is it a program? I have an iPad Pro combined with Demo Pro. And our last piece is AstroPad. So those three powers combined enable me to draw on the screen pretty well. A sweet Scorpio, thank you for the stretch. As you know, not that kind of stream. Oh yeah. Yeah. What's a project or app that you've worked on that you're super proud of? My first company, I had a couple companies. My very first company was something called Listful of Hope. It was a reverse Craigslist. And we got picked up we were in New Haven, we were in Philly, we were in San Francisco and New York. And people would post the things that they needed, and folks in their community would respond and say, oh, I have those things. And so during the winter, a lot of folks got things like gloves and jackets and stuff that people weren't using them. And so people asked for them and got them. So it was kind of like a reverse Craigslist. And that was really cool because we went right into like the holiday season, and a lot of kids got toys. A lot of folks got the things they needed to survive the winter. And so that was probably my favorite project. The one, or at least the one I'm the most proud of. It was kind of my first dabble in trying to build a gift economy. Is there a follow-along folder for this class? No, I will be sharing a GitHub link once we get through a little bit more. Yeah, Roach, a lot of stuff has to go on YouTube still, so I just have to have some time. It actually takes a while to like upload stuff, put all the names and everything. It just takes me a while, so it'll get up there. Just gotta have some time to do it. 2 minutes, folks. Take your break if you're able to. I'm going to look at some code here real quick. I want to see if I can figure out why the Heroku build is breaking. Not too sure. Actually, I'm not going to do it live. We'll do it later. It's too distracting. Karen, hey, thank you for the 3 months. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hey, I appreciate that, Rich. I already have it downloaded onto my PC. It's just I gotta upload it. Yeah. Indifferent. I wish. How many of the OGs are still with us? I'm not sure. The way I use is the attendance is through the tweets, and so I think we lost about a third, which is pretty damn good for a free boot camp that spans this long. That's awesome, Fox. OG's in the chat. Let's go. What's an OG? Original gangster. Somebody's been here since the beginning. Indifferent. We did gain a bunch of folks. Yeah, it's been nice. It goes in waves. It comes in waves. When we cover easier stuff, we get more people. When we get into the harder stuff, we lose people. That's kind of what I've noticed. Alrighty, folks. Come on back. Come on back. Favorite rapper, big fan of Beanie Siegel. Probably my top. Newer rapper, probably Polo G. Like if we're talking about current right now, Polo G I think is pretty cool. I like my backpack rappers too, so I got a smattering of those. All right, come on back, folks. Let's get right back into the code. We'll get right back into it. I'm gonna chill the music. Cool. Alrighty. So, we talked about creating. We talked about getting. We're not going to worry about updating. There's nothing for me to update here. Right, chat? There's nothing that I can update. This application doesn't have any updating. We're gonna share the updating on Tuesday. So on Tuesday we're gonna do the updating. Okay. So right now there's nothing that we can update. So since there's nothing that we can update, we're not gonna worry about updating today. We'll do that. If you come on Sunday, we'll probably touch a little bit on it Sunday, and then we're gonna do it on Tuesday. So we already saw getting. So we saw creating. We saw reading. We're going to skip updating, and we're going to do deleting. All right, we're going to do some deleting. So let's talk about deleting. When we delete something, we have our browser. Our browser makes a request. Now, let's look at the application. How am I going to delete Polo G? Ready? Watch this, chat. Chat, watch this real quick. Watch this and see if you can figure out what's happening here. 3, 2, 1, I click, and Polo G is gone. So how did I start this request? What started that request? It was a click. Yeah, it was an event listener. It was a click. It was something listening for a click. And when it heard that click, where is an event listener located? Where is a click event located? Where can we actually find Like where would those event listeners be? In our JavaScript, but what type of JavaScript? Are we talking client side or server side? We're talking client side. Yeah, we're talking some client side JavaScript. The normal main JS that we've been using for weeks. Now, where people get confused is they're like, wait a minute, Leon, but the file came from the server. Yes. When you run a website, when we go to our favorite new website, neopets.com. When we go to neopets.com, we have made a request to a server. That server responded with what? What did that server respond with? What did that server respond with? It responded with HTML, but what else did it respond with? Exactly, Ash. It responded with CSS. It responded with JavaScript. It responded with all this stuff. So it doesn't, like the servers are going to be set up to respond with not only HTML, but they're also going to respond with images, CSS, JavaScript. And that HTML, that CSS, that JavaScript, that's running on the client. We made requests for it, and once we get it, it's running in the browser, right? The browser's running that code. Right? So don't get confused there. When we're on the site, we're dealing with something that's in the browser. We are dealing with client-side code. When we click on that delete, that is some client-side code. Now, if we're dealing with client-side code, what's the only way that we've seen our client-side JavaScript, client-side JavaScript, what's the only way that we've seen our client-side JavaScript be able to make a request to a server? A fetch. It's a fetch. So it has to be a fetch. In our main JS, there has to be a fetch. That's the only thing that we've seen so far. And so let's look at our client-side JS file. Here is the client-side JS file. If we look at our EJS, what's the last thing in our EJS? The last thing in this EJS is a request for the main JS. So when our EJS spits out HTML and that HTML gets sent to the client opens that HTML file and immediately makes another request to our server for a JavaScript file. And the beautiful thing about Express, probably, like, if you ask me, Leon, what is the favorite line of code you ever learned? This is my favorite line of code, like top 10 favorite lines of code, right here. Line 17. App.use express static public. Anybody know what that's doing? What's that doing, chat? What's that doing? Anybody know what that's doing? No idea. Any file, any static file that we put in that folder, Express will just serve up for us. Any file I put in there, Express will just serve it up. So I can put all my CSS in there. I can put all my JavaScript in there. I can put all my images in there. I can put anything that I want that I know is going to be requested from the client side. I could just put it in that public folder. And the beautiful thing is, Express will just handle that for me. No more monster conditional. No huge if, else if, having to actually handle every single one of those files. If I put it in the public folder, Express just handles it. So if we look, my public folder just has this main.js file in it. So EJS spit out an HTML file. The HTML file it spit out had a request for a main.js file. Express responded with this main.js file because it was in my public folder. I don't have to do any extra routing. I don't have to set up anything. I don't have to do any conditionals. It just works. Whatever I put in that public folder can be served up by Express. I don't have to handle like writing conditional logic for it. I don't have to worry about it. Put it in there and it's done. So all my CSS, all my JavaScripts, all my client-side code, put in that folder, it's done. So we have our client-side JavaScript. And the reason we have our client-side JavaScript is because our HTML made a request for it when we tried to load the HTML. We got this main.js file because it was served up because it was in the public folder. And we got just some normal client-side JavaScript. We're going to find everything that has the DEL class. If you look at my EJS, I'm creating LIs, and the LIs have 3 spans in it. One span for their stage name. Why do I keep doing that? One span for their stage name, another span for their birth name, and a span that just says delete. And look, it has the delete key, like the delete class there. So in my main.js, I'm saying grab everything that has that class. I am then adding an event listener to every single thing that has that class. Right? Because if we look, I have 1, 2, 3 things that need event listeners right now. I have 3 deletes that need event listeners. So what I did in my client-side JavaScript, I grabbed everything that had that delete class. I added an event listener to each one. And then here is the event listener that's now on each one of these. It's a normal async function that we saw past couple classes. But here's the really cool stuff. When I click delete, I start from the span. That's this. This is the span I clicked on. I go up to the parent. What is the parent of the span, chat? Chat. What is the parent of the span? It is the LI. So I went from the span. I went up a level to the LI. So now I'm at the LI. Great. Next thing is, look at the child node of the LI. We have 1, 2, 3 child nodes. This is the first node. This is the third node. And this is the 5th node. First person that sends me a DM on Discord. No, don't do that because that'll be too many people. First person that puts in the 100 devs general why it's 135, I'll send you a sticker. I almost messed myself up there real quick. First person to put in 100 devs general about why it's 135, I'll send you a sticker. Now, don't get hung up on 135. Just know that the first one is 1, the second one is 3, and the third one is 5. So if we look at it, we started off with the span. The span was the thing I clicked on. I went up to the LI. I looked at the first child of the LI and grabbed its text. Chat. What is going to be the LI's first child's text? What is that going to be? What is that always going to be? The LI's first child's text. What is it always going to be? Yeah. it's always going to be the stage name next to the thing we click delete on. So if I was to go back to my app and I was to click delete on 21 Savage, when I click that delete, that span becomes this. I go up to the LI, which is this whole thing. I look at the first child, which is the stage name, and I grab that text. That text is now stored in my variable S name. Then I go to my next line. I clicked on the delete. I went up to the LI. I grabbed the next child node and grabbed its text. Chat, what is that always going to be in my application? What is that always going to be? The next child node. What is that always going to be? Birth name, exactly. If we look, if I was to click delete, that's this. I'd go up to the parent, which is the whole LI. I would go not to the first, but the second child, grab that text and put it inside of the variable B name. Cool. So now I have the stage name and the birth name of the thing I just clicked. I got Riza and I got Robert, right? I got both of them. Cool. Next is our fetch. We're going to make a fetch, but to our own API. I'm going to make a fetch to my own API. If we look at my API, I have a app.delete for delete wrapper. That's part of my API. It's part of the API that I've created. So if I look at my fetch, I'm fetching delete wrapper, and I'm telling it to be a delete method. So my API is set up with a delete wrapper route and a delete method. If we look at my server.js, I have a delete method for delete wrapper the route. So my client-side JavaScript, when I clicked delete, made a fetch to my own API. Now, how do I know what document must be deleted? Well, I'm going to pass along Riza, and I'm going to pass along Robert that I got out the DOM. I grabbed both of those values from the DOM, and I'm going to pass those values along. I'm going to pass those values along so that when I look at my API, I am able to say, go to the database, go to my wrappers collection, and delete one document. Delete the document where the stage name matches what I just sent you. If you look, stage name S is what the property was on the object I sent to my API. Now, I know this is a lot. I'm walking through it once. We're going to spend a hell of a lot of time on this. I want you to see it once, and then we're going to spend time breaking it down. So there's a lot of stuff that happened here, right? I send to my API something that has the property of stage name S, right? And I pass along Riza. So my API saw, hey, go to the database, find the wrappers collection, find one document, delete one document where it has a stage name property of Riza, which is the thing I just sent along. Cool. So it went to Mongo Atlas. It looked through all of my documents. It found one where stage name equaled the text I grabbed from the DOM. And if I refresh, the document is gone. Or I clicked on what one did I click on? I clicked on Polo G, sorry. Clicked on Polo G. So I clicked on Polo G and it's gone. Now, once I was done, once I had deleted the document and I had told my fetch that it resolved, what was the last thing I did? What was the last thing I did, chat? I refreshed the page, triggering a what? A get. And so now the get went to the database. It found all my documents, but now we're down a document. That document is no longer in the database. And since it's no longer in our database, we only create 3 LIs this time, and we're missing Polo G. Whew. It's a lot of steps. It's fancy Legos, folks. All right. So now we saw all the steps. Let's draw it out. Let's draw out the steps. Let's draw out the steps. Everybody take a deep breath. Yes, we don't care about resources yet. All right. We've taken our deep breaths. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. We've hydrated. We've taken our deep breaths. All right. We look at our client-side device. Our client-side device, right? Our client has a browser. On that browser was Polo G, their birth name, and a delete button. Telefang with the stretch. Not that kind of stream, folks. Only a million channel points. And it could be yours. Ooh. All right. There's 2 stretches? Oh, and a pasta stretch tofu. Hold on, I gotta get up. I gotta get the full stretch in. 1 second. Ooh. There we go. Toxic Matt. Hey, thank you for the sub. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. All right. So, on our client, we had some wrappers. And we had one that was Polo G, their real name, and a delete button. My user clicked on that delete button. What is the only thing that we know that can listen for that click on the delete button? Chat, what's the only thing that we know that can listen for the click, the click, the click, the click? It's an event listener. That event listener is in our client-side JavaScript file. Now, here's the $1 million question. How did my client-side code get access to that JavaScript file? How did this browser get access to that client-side JavaScript file? It made a GET request. So when the HTML was sent to our browser, the HTML file had a script tag. And that script tag asked for a JavaScript file. It asked for a JavaScript file. Now, did we have to create a route in our API for the request of that script tag? The beautiful thing about Express is since that script tag, which is just a static file, since that script tag was in our public folder, right? Since that script tag was in our public folder, it just gave it to us. The request made it to our server and back, but we didn't have to think about it. We never had to think about it. It just did it for us. It did it for us because we had that magical line of code that says any static file, right? Any static file boom. If it's in the public folder, send it back to them. Send it back to them. That line 17. Whew, magic. All right. Cool. So we know that we had some HTML. The HTML asked for a JavaScript file. So right now in the browser is some HTML and some client-side JavaScript. That client-side JavaScript heard the click on that delete text. What did the client-side JavaScript do when it heard the click on the delete text? It ran a function, and that function made a what? That function made a request. We clicked on the delete text, and when we clicked on that delete, there was an event listener that heard the click and fired a function. That function did a few things. That function got the name Polo G. Right? It got the name Polo G. That function made a fetch. And the fetch said, hey, make this a delete request and pass along Polo G. So we clicked on that delete text. There was an event listener that heard that delete. The function ran, and the function said, make a fetch. It's going to be a delete request and pass along Polo G. That information went to our server. Our server has some code running on it that heard that delete request. Our server had some code running on it that heard the delete request. What's that code called? What's the code that can hear our request? It's our API. Exactly. So in our API, there was an app.what? App.what? Yeah, app.delete. There was an app.delete. And once the API heard the app.delete, what did it do? Well, the first thing it did is we had this lovely database down here. There was a wrappers collection. And inside of it were all of our documents. So when it heard the delete, it went to the database. It went to the wrappers collection. And it said, find one. And delete it. Delete one. All right? Delete one. Said delete one. Hold on. This needs to be like the thumbnail. That's my YouTube thumbnail. There you go. This doesn't make sense to you? You're not a real developer. If this doesn't make sense to you, you're not a real. It just doesn't make sense. What's Leon's class like? Developers hate this one trick. Exactly. Cruden. When they say the tutorial is easy. When they say the tutorial is easy. All right. So it said I had my older Mongo is showing. It's just delete one, right? So it said delete one, and so it went to our collection. It found the document that had the name Polo G, and when it found it, it deleted it. That's it. It found it and deleted it, and then once it had found the document and deleted it, what did we do? Chat, we found the document, we deleted it. What did we do? We just refreshed it. We refreshed the page. When we refreshed the page, we wound up making a GET request to our server. Good thing we had app.get set up. That goes and talks to the database, finds our collection of wrappers. It finds all the documents, puts them into an array, passes all of those arrays to our render of the EJS, and it passes in all of that information to the EJS. The EJS spits out HTML, and then we will respond with that HTML back to the browser. Easy as pie, folks. I can't believe I understand all this finally. Hey, let's go. Let's go. Cool. All right. So now we know how to get, post, and delete. We ready to see all the code? Can we take just gonna take another deep breath. Let's look at the code. Actually, let's talk about the code first. I put some of the highlights here. These are the highlights for setting up the project. We saw those last class. Nothing new there. We got some code that enables us to connect to our database. I think maybe by showing it like in just chunks, it might make it a little less overwhelming. Here's the code to connect to the database. Chat. Do I have this memorized? Hell no. Hell no. I Google it every damn time, or I have a template that I use most of the time, and I can grab it from here. This is a slightly older way of doing it, but I find it way more readable than any of the newer stuff. Okay? Here's how I'm going to connect to my database. I'm creating a global variable. That's how all of my routes are able to like go to the right database. Different. Right? I'm just going to have a global variable that holds my database. That's how all my app routes can talk to the same database. I have a connection string that Mongo Atlas has given me. When you create your database, Mongo Atlas gives you this connection string. So yes, now you have my connection string. I have not hidden it. You have the username, you have the password, but you do not have your IP address whitelisted. So if you were to like try and plug this into your own code, it wouldn't work because your IP address isn't whitelisted. Cool. And I have named my database wrap. All right. You can see my database name here, and you can also see the DB name here. Great. Next, I have this Mongo client code, and this is the magic. This is what connects my application, right? This is what connects my application to my database. This string here gets plugged in, and then my actual database gets stored in this database variable. That's it. We're done. We have connected to the database. I use this code to connect to my database. So you, for now, are going to use this code to connect to your database. What happens if your IP address changes? Then I have to change it on my Mongo Atlas. Cool. How do I set up my server? Well, I'm going to tell the server to use, I'm going to tell my server to use EJS. That's how it knows that I'm going to use EJS templates. What is use unified topology? Some nerd stuff. My code was breaking, so I had to put that so it would stop breaking. That's the real honest answer. Don't worry about it right now. That's the answer. It was breaking. It told me to put that, so I put it. All right. EJS. I'm saying my magic line of code, any of my static files, if they're in the public folder, serve them up. Right? Serve them up. This right here enables us to look at the data that's being passed back and forth from our requests. So you might have seen in some older tutorials, body parser. Express has body parser kind of built into it now. And what I mean by body parser is, remember when we submitted the form? How was I able to look at the data that was submitted with that form? That's what this code does. It just enables us to look at the data that's being passed. That's all it is. This enables us to look at the data that's being passed. So when we're going to use these two lines of code, help us look at the things that are being passed when our form submits, for example. Cool. And then we have our normal setting up of our app to listen on a specific port. Cool. All of this can be considered kind of setting up our what? We're setting up our what here? Well, not the bottom part there. Setting up our what? Setting up our server, and we're starting to set up a lot of our middleware. Yeah, this is where our middleware starts to come into place. Like the stuff that's going to help us with the responses and the requests and the responses, right? The stuff that helps us with the requests and the responses, that sits between the requests and the responses, is our middleware. So since most of this stuff is helping us with our requests and our responses, we would start calling some of this stuff middleware. Cool. We already saw Git. We already saw Post. We already saw our EJS file. And we already talked about the public folder that serves up all of our static files. We saw delete, and we saw pushing to Heroku last class. So I feel like we are ready to look at the code. You ready, chat? You ready to see the code in all of its glory? No. Excuse me. All right, let's take a look. It's not that bad. All right. So I have a server.js, which is going to do all the heavy lifting. I have my package.json, which you can see some of the dependencies that I've installed. Right. I have my git ignore so that I don't wind up pushing my node modules folder to GitHub. I have a views folder with my EJS. We're going to learn next week a a pattern called model view controller. Views are the things that we wind up seeing, like the stuff that we see on the client side, the things that we can see. And so we have a views folder that's just full of our EJS templates, right? It's just full of our EJS templates. Next, we have our public folder, which Express is going to help us serve up. Anything we put in here is going to be served up, and we see our client-side file there. That's it. Cool. All right, now let's walk through it. Some stuff we saw before. We're going to require Express, and then we are going to consume it through app. So wherever I see app, it's really Express. Wherever I see app, it's really Express. Are you going to cover syncing secret keys? Yes, but not today. Cover that on Tuesday. It just adds a layer of complexity that we don't need today. I just made sure that you couldn't access my database without my IP address. That's all. Where you see app, it's Express. Here, this package and Mongo client is what I'm going to use to connect to my database. And as a tribute, I set my port to 212121. 2121. All right. Cool. So that's kind of all the stuff that I've required. And I set up my port. If you look, here's the code that I copy and paste to connect to my database. I get the connection string from Mongo Atlas. So if I go to Mongo Atlas, I go to clusters, I go to connect your application, boom, that's where I grab that string from. All of this is in the Zell reading. So Zell goes through this line by line with tons of pictures. It's all there. Cool. Grab that line, set up my database name to be wrap. This string right here, the variable, you can see that it's plugged in right here on the connect. Beautiful. And once I am connected to my database, you're going to see it says connect it to wrap database. Right? Wrap database. Cool. And then the last thing I do is I set up this global variable. The global variable I put up here is DB. So this code right here stores the database that I have connected in this variable called DB. So now, whenever I see DB, it is the database that I have just connected to. So all this code is just to connect to my database. Cool. Next, I'm setting up my middleware and the rest of my application. I am telling it to use EJS. That's the templating language I'm going to use. I am telling it to serve up any files that I put in my public folder. And I am saying, hey, use this code to parse or to look at any of the requests that are coming in. This lines right here enable me to look at the data that was sent with the form. It replaces body parser if you did this Zell reading. It's just a slightly different way of doing body parser. Cool. Well, that's a good thing to bring up, Scorpio. If you notice in my string, there's no carets. It said like password with the carets. You got to delete the carets and the password and put in your password. Cool. Old coder chick, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Bob, you don't have to install anything because if you notice, what am I using here? I'm just using Express. Express has the body parsing stuff built into it. Yeah, whenever you see stuff striked out, it means it's kind of been deprecated. Cool. So I have required my modules. I have connected my database. I have set up my server to do the things I need it to do. The get, the post, and the delete make up my what? The get, the post, and the delete make up my what? My API. Wonderful. And then the last thing I do is I set up my app to listen on port 2121, which is the variable up top, right? Or if I have it on Heroku, I tell it to use whatever port Heroku wants to use. And that is my server.js file. That's kind of it. That's the main thing here, folks. It's just that code. That's the main thing. Ruski, most clients won't require a backend when you're first starting out. So a lot of folks were just building client-side code. Yeah. All right. Let's look at some other stuff that's here. Like I said, I have my package.json, which shows the dependencies or the packages I'm going to need. I have my index.ejs file that we saw. And I have my main.js file in my public folder. Cool. Let's go ahead and come back to the server here. You can see that my server is currently running. Right, if I get out my way here. You see my server is currently running right here. I can stop my server. Control C. Can do node server to start it again. You can see that it is listening on port 2021. And then it said it's connected to the wrap database. So that's how I know that my server is running and that it's connected to the right database. We're good. Now the cool thing is I put some console logs inside of my post so I can see when a wrapper has been added, and a console log in my delete so I can see when a wrapper has been deleted. Enigma, I'll try. All right. So let's go back to our app and step through now using the code. My server is running. My server is running. Let's refresh the page. You see my server is still up and running. We're good to go. I refresh the page. When I refresh the page, what type of request did I make, chat? When I refresh the page, what type of request did I make? I made a GET request. Great. Let's go look at that code. Here's my GET request. It worked. Since it heard that GET request, it fired this function. The function, the first thing it does, DB. Chat, what is DB holding? What is DB? What is DB? It's the database. Specifically, the database that I am currently connected to. Right? It is the database I'm currently connected to. So, I'm connected to that database. I'm going to look at my wrappers collection. I'm going to find all the documents inside of that collection. Right? I'm going to find all of the documents inside this collection. So that's what I got to do. I got to go to my database. Got to look in Mongo Atlas. Let me go to my collections. I'm going to go to my wrappers collection, and I found all 3 of my documents. Cool. So I found all 3 of my documents. Chat. What is really like the only data structure that we know that can hold 3 objects? And an array. So we put all three of those objects in an array. Put them in an array. This array that we just got gets plopped into data. So wherever I see data, it's really my array. So if I look here, here is my array of objects. And what I am doing is I am trying to render some EJS. And I am passing this array into my EJS with what name? What is the name of my array that is being passed into the EJS, please? It's going to be called info. So now I need to go and look at my EJS file and look for info. So let's go. Here's the EJS. It looks like normal HTML until we get to here. There's some special syntax here that enables me to write my for. And there is some special syntax here that enables me to close my for loop. Right? So that's the little bit of extra syntax you need for EJS to work. It kind of lets EJS know that this isn't HTML. This is some special stuff. It's the JavaScript that we need. And here is info. Right now, info.length is going to be what? If maybe we need to look at our Mongo Atlas. Info.length is going to be what? Yeah, it's going to be 3 because there's 3 documents in our Mongo collection. Lovely. And so what we are going to do is this for loop is going to run 3 times. And each time it runs, it's going to spit out an LI that has a span with stage name in it, a span with the birth name in it, and a span with the delete word in it. So we're going to see that happen 2 more times because this for loop is going to run 3 times because there are 3 objects. There are 3 objects in our, 3 documents in our collection. And so once this is done running, this EJS spits out what? This EJS spits out what? Chat, what is the EJS for me, please? We only got 6 more minutes. Give me some energy. What does this EJS spit out? Yeah. This EJS spits out HTML. So this whole render is though we have rendered some HTML. And chat, what are we going to do with the HTML that we just rendered? Respond. We'll respond with that HTML, and you will see the response here. Beautiful. The HTML has loaded in our browser. The HTML has loaded in our browser. And as the browser was trying to load the HTML, there was another GET request that was made. What was the last GET request that was made, chat? No. The static files. If we look at our EJS, the last thing that's there is a request for this script file. So once we responded with the HTML, that HTML then said, "Hey, whoa, give me a JavaScript file." Now the really cool thing is, we don't need part of our API being cluttered up with handling that GET request. We only have 3 parts of our API here. What we're able to do is we're going to say, hey, that main.js is a static file. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same thing. Just serve it up. And so Express is really good at anything we put in that public folder. If there's a request that comes in for it, right? If there's a request that comes in for it, this line handles it. And so now, just by refreshing the page, we made that GET request. That GET request talked to the database. It got the documents. It responded with the documents, put them into an EJS file, and then that EJS file spit out HTML, and we responded with the HTML. Not too bad. Cool. Let's do a post. All right, we need to add back Polo G. Let's copy. All right, stage name, Polo G. Birth name, Taurus. Submit. All right. Submit. What type of request did I just make when I submitted that form, chat? 3 minutes. Give me some energy. Give me some energy. We just got to get through. We got to get through the post and we got to get through the delete. We made a post request. And we made a post request because the form used the post method. Right? The form used the post method. And so since the form that we just submitted said use post, that's the type of request we made. And our API was set up to handle that post. Cool. So once we heard the post, we knew that we were going to go talk to our database. We were going to find the wrappers collection. And we are going to insert a new document into that wrappers collection. And what we are going to insert is what came from the form. So there will now be a property in our document that has stage name. And we will have a property on our document that has birth name. Simply because that was the names here on the form. Right? And if we look, we go to our Mongo database, it worked. You can see the documents. If I refresh, you can see that there's Polo G. It has the stage name property that came from the form and the Polo G that we entered. And it has the birth name property and the birth name that we entered. Right? All because that's what our API said to do. Our API said go to the database, find the wrappers collection, insert one document that has all the stuff that came from the form, the request body. And the reason why we're able to say request body is actually because of some of the middleware that we used up here. That's all it is. The stuff that came along with the form is the request body. That's all it is. The stuff that came with the form is the request body. Beautiful. Once we were done inserting that document, chat, what did we do? We were done inserting that document. What did we do? What did we do when we were done inserting that document? We refreshed the page. And once we refreshed the page, we made a new GET. So this GET request ran again. We went to our database. We found the wrappers collection. We found all the documents. Now there is 4 documents. We put all those documents into an array. That array is passed into data. Wherever we see data, it is the array. We gave that array the name of info. We're passing it into our EJS. Wherever we see info in the EJS, that is our array of objects. This time, this for loop will run 4 times, creating 4 LIs. When we're done, the EJS spits out some HTML. That HTML comes back to the browser. We see the 4 LIs that were created, and the static file is requested, but we don't see that. We don't care about that. It just happened because Express did it for us. Is it making sense? I know the code can be overwhelming, but is the idea like how is this working? Does that make sense? Like I don't really care about the syntax so much, but is the idea coming across? Cool. That's where we want to be. We want to be where the idea makes sense. Now, if it doesn't make sense and you haven't done the reading, now you see the importance of doing the reading. Cool. Making sense? Making sense. All right. We have one more thing. One more thing, and then we'll end for the evening. One more thing. One more thing, and then we'll end for the evening. We have to delete. We have to click delete. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to delete the RZA. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click delete. Boom. I click delete. The only thing that can hear the click is our client-side JavaScript. So let's look at our client-side JavaScript. Our client-side JavaScript, everything that had that delete class, which is all the words delete have that class. I added an event listener to every single thing that had that class. And here's what happens. When I click delete, I grab the stage name. I also grabbed their birth name, but I didn't really need it. I just used the stage name in my code. So I grabbed the stage name. I grabbed the birth name. I make a fetch. I have to make a fetch because fetch is the only way. When you were writing your client-side JavaScript, when you were talking to NASA, when you were talking to the dog CEO, when you were talking to the cocktail database, you use fetch. Fetch is the only way to make these requests from our client-side JavaScript, right? We use fetch. So we made a fetch. We passed along some extra info, though. We said, here's the route, just like the URL, just like dog CEO, cocktail database, NASA. Our URL is just the route in our API. So that's our URL. We said it's going to be a delete request, and we passed along RZA. We passed along RZA, and wherever we see stage name S, that is RZA. Cool. Let's look at our API. It heard the delete request that came from the fetch. We go to our database. We find the wrappers collection. We're going to delete one document where the stage name property matches RZA. We're going to go to our database. We're going to go to our collection, and we're going to find a place where stage name equals RZA. And when we find it, chat, what are we going to do to it? When we find it, what are we going to do to it? We're going to delete them. We're going to yeet them. We're going to get rid of them. Cool. We respond back to the fetch. Remember, we have to send something back with that to that fetch. We sent back to the fetch, hey, we deleted them. It doesn't matter what you put here. You just need to respond to the fetch, right? I responded to the fetch, we deleted it. And then what did I do? After I deleted, what did I do? I refreshed, which is a new GET request. We have to go back to our API. We have a GET request again. We go to the database. We find the wrappers collection. Whoop. We find all the documents, but now we're down one. We had 4, now we're at 3 because we deleted the RZA. Put all that into an array. That array is passed into data. Wherever we see data, it's our array. We give a name to that array of info. So wherever I see info inside of my EJS, it's actually that array of objects. We loop through that array of objects. We build 3 LIs. The render spits out HTML. And we respond with that HTML. The HTML goes to the browser. We're able to see our 3 current wrappers. The HTML file also makes a request for that main.js. Express serves that up. We don't have to worry about it. It handled it because it was a static file. I don't want class to end, but it must. Because now you all have to do this. You all have to put in the time now, the effort to go through this. I want you to go through this code. I want you to go through the tutorial. Figure out what is happening. And you're going to come back to me on Sunday. You're going to come back to me on Sunday. And we're going to do it all from scratch. If you want the code, in the follow along materials channel, when I follow up at the end of class, I'm going to send you the link to the code. I want you to use this code, play with it, break it, try and get it running. Remember, you have to do npm install. Get it running. Try and make everything happen. Connect your own database. And then when we come back on Sunday, we'll do it all again, all the way from scratch. We're going to code it all out. We're going to walk through all of your questions. And then next week, we're going to do it over again. And the week after, over again. And over again until this makes sense and it's glued into your brains. So, did you learn some stuff tonight? I hope you did. Did you learn some stuff tonight? Cool. All right. My brain's fried. So I know your brains have to be sizzling. They have to be sizzling. So, we're not going to do a raid. We're saving up all of our raid juice for Sunday. All of our raid juice is going to come in on Sunday. I really want you to, when the stream is over, I need you to active recall all the things we just learned. You need to do active recall. You must do active recall. You have to. You have to say out loud the things that we just learned. We know from day one, this is the technique that makes it so that we can learn. Please, we're gonna end stream. Take a break. Get some water. Let your brain cool off for a little bit. And then active recall the things that we just learned. If you have questions, write down your questions. Come ready on Sunday with questions. Come ready with questions. We're going to go through it all again. You're going to do some reading. We're going to go through it all again. Next week is going to be all practice on the stuff that we just covered. But please, active recall, and then add this stuff to your Anki. Your homework, real quick before you run, your homework. Remember, you should be prepping the bank. If you haven't completed your professional links, you're late. Please get me your professional links. Remember, I want you to create a Heroku account, a Mongo Atlas account, Postman accounts. Make sure you read through Zell's blog. This is the best tutorial on the internet for this stuff. Make sure you get through it. See where my code's a little bit different. See the things I changed a little bit. Then I want you to try. And you might not be able to do this until after Sunday's class. But after you've active recalled, I want you to bend my code. Build your own app. Try and bend my code to do something that you want it to do. Even if it's really similar, that's okay. But you gotta build. You gotta practice. You active recall, and then you must practice. Okay? And if you can, push it to Heroku. I would love to see it. All right, folks. We're going to end tonight. I will post the solutions on Discord. Give me a second. I'll put it up there. Please take a quick break. Active recall. Thank you so much for giving me tonight, for putting in the work. I know this is hard. I know this can bend your brains. And so kudos to you for sticking through, for asking great questions, for keeping chat lively. I appreciate it. Have a good night. I will see you all tomorrow on Remo to practice some interviewing. And then on Sunday, I shall see you all. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you may be. And I'll see you in just a few hours. Peace, everybody.